My sister stole Dad's credit card and made me pay it back while she lived luxuriously, then humiliated me at her engagement party by twisting the story. When I revealed the truth with evidence, and she retaliated by getting me fired and homeless. I, 24F, need to get this out because I don't know what else to do. My sister Patricia, 27F, has always been the perfect child. She got straight A's, went to law school, landed a job at a prestigious firm right after graduation. I went to community college for graphic design and work freelance jobs. Our parents have always made it clear who they're proud of. 5 years ago, when I was 19 and Patricia was 22, she was working as a summer associate at a big law firm. She called me crying one night saying she had made a huge mistake. She had used our dad's corporate credit card, which was supposed to be for emergencies only, to buy professional clothes for work. She spent $4,800 on suits, shoes, and accessories from high-end stores. Patricia begged me to take the blame. She said if our parents found out, they would make her quit the internship and she would never get another chance at that firm. She said our parents already expected me to be irresponsible with money, so they wouldn't be as shocked or disappointed. She promised she would pay me back within 6 months once she got her signing bonus. I agreed to take the blame. When our parents confronted me about the charges, I lied and said I had taken the card to buy art supplies and got carried away. My dad was furious. He made me get 2 jobs immediately, one at a local diner and another cleaning offices at night. I worked 7 days a week, sometimes 14-hour days, to pay back the money. It took me 8 months to pay off the entire amount plus interest. During those 8 months, Patricia got the job offer from the firm. She moved to a fancy apartment downtown and started posting photos on social media wearing the clothes I was paying for. Whenever I brought up her promise to pay me back, she would say I was being dramatic and that working was good character building for me. She said I should thank her for teaching me responsibility. After I finished paying off the debt, I asked her again about paying me back. She laughed and said the statute of limitations on sibling IOUs was 6 months. She said I had chosen to take the blame, so I had chosen to pay the consequences. I stopped bringing it up because every conversation turned into her lecturing me about how I needed to stop being a victim. Over the next 4 years, Patricia got promoted twice. She bought a new car, took expensive vacations, and got engaged to another lawyer from her firm. Meanwhile, I kept working multiple jobs to support myself. I had to drop out of community college because I couldn't afford tuition and textbooks. Every family gathering became about Patricia's latest achievement while I sat there knowing I had sacrificed my education for her career. The breaking point came last month at Patricia's engagement party. Our whole extended family was there, including our grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Patricia had been drinking and started telling everyone how responsible and hardworking she was compared to me. She brought up the credit card incident as an example of how different we were. She told everyone how I had stolen Dad's credit card 5 years ago to buy art supplies and how she had tried to talk sense into me. She said she was glad I learned my lesson, even though it took me almost a year to pay back such a small amount of money. She said she hoped I would finally grow up and stop expecting handouts from the family. I sat there listening to her rewrite history while everyone nodded along. Our grandmother even said she was proud of Patricia for being such a good influence on me. That's when something inside me snapped. I stood up and told everyone the truth. I explained exactly what had happened 5 years ago. I pulled out my phone and showed them screenshots of the bank statements, the store receipts, and text messages between Patricia and me from that time. I told them about working 14-hour days for 8 months while Patricia wore the clothes I was paying for. I told them about dropping out of school because I couldn't afford tuition after spending all my savings on her debt. The room went completely silent. Patricia's face went white, then red. She started yelling that I was lying and trying to ruin her engagement party. Our parents looked shocked but didn't say anything. Patricia's fiancé looked confused and kept asking if what I said was true. Patricia stormed out of the party with her fiancé following behind her. Most of our relatives left shortly after. Our parents told me I should have kept my mouth shut and that airing family business in public was inappropriate. They said Patricia had worked hard for everything she achieved and I was just jealous. I left the party and went home. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and text messages. Patricia had sent a long message saying I had humiliated her in front of everyone she cared about and that I would regret opening my mouth. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Patricia has been systematically destroying my life. She somehow got me kicked out of my apartment by calling my landlord and telling him I had a drug problem and was dealing from the property. She called my biggest freelance client and told them I had been stealing their designs and selling them to competitors. She contacted the temp agency I work with and said I had been showing up to assignments drunk. I lost my apartment, my biggest source of income, and my backup job all in the same week. I had to move in with a friend temporarily, but her lease doesn't allow long-term guests, so I can only stay another week. Yesterday, Patricia called me for the first time since the engagement party. She said she would help me get my life back together if I agreed to call everyone who was at the party and tell them I had lied about the credit card incident. She said I needed to say I made up the story because I was jealous of her success and apologize for trying to ruin her reputation. She said if I didn't do this within 48 hours, things would get much worse for me. She said she had connections throughout the city and could make sure I never got another decent job anywhere. She also said she would tell our parents that I had been stealing from clients and that they should cut me off completely. I don't know what to do. I have no money, nowhere to live, and no job prospects. Patricia clearly has more power and resources than I do. Part of me wants to just apologize and lie again to make this stop. But I also know that giving in now means she will control me for the rest of my life. I saved some screenshots and documents from 5 years ago, but I don't know if anyone would believe me or care at this point. Patricia has always been better at talking to people and making herself look good. She's a lawyer, she knows how to argue and manipulate situations to her advantage. Our parents haven't contacted me since the engagement party. I think they've chosen Patricia's side, which isn't surprising. They've always chosen her side. I just never thought my own sister would try to destroy my entire life over a lie I kept to protect her. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? I don't know if I should give in to her demands or try to fight back somehow. I'm running out of options and time. Update 1: I didn't give in to Patricia's demands. I couldn't bring myself to call everyone and lie again, especially after what it cost me the first time. Instead, I started reaching out to people who were at the engagement party to share my evidence and tell my side of the story. Most of our relatives didn't respond to my messages. A few told me they didn't want to get involved in family drama. Our parents blocked my number after I tried calling them to explain everything properly. Only our cousin Clark, 31M, and his wife Sarah, 29F, listened to me. They looked at all my evidence and said they believed me, but they couldn't do much to help with the situation. Patricia followed through on her threats. Within a week, I lost the temporary place I was staying when my friend got a call from her property management company about unauthorized long-term guests. I ended up sleeping in my car for several nights before finding a room in a weekly motel. The job situation got worse too. Every temp agency in the city seemed to have a note on my file about reliability issues. When I tried to get work through online platforms, my accounts kept getting suspended for policy violations I didn't commit. Patricia was using her legal connections to systematically cut off every income source I had. But then something unexpected happened. I got a message from someone named Robbie, 34M, who said he had worked at Patricia's law firm until 2 years ago. He said he heard about what happened at the engagement party through mutual connections and wanted to meet with me. Robbie and I met at a coffee shop downtown. He told me that Patricia had gotten him fired from the law firm by accusing him of sexual harassment. He said she had filed a formal complaint claiming he had made inappropriate comments about her appearance and asked her out multiple times despite her saying no. Robbie insisted none of it was true. He said he barely interacted with Patricia since they worked in different departments. He showed me emails and documents that he claimed proved his innocence, but said the firm had conducted a quick investigation and sided with Patricia. He was fired within 2 weeks and his reputation in the legal community was destroyed. He said he had spent the last 2 years trying to rebuild his career, but Patricia's accusations followed him everywhere. He had to take a job in a different state and start over completely. He said he came back to town for a family wedding and heard through old colleagues about what Patricia had done to me. Robbie asked if I would be willing to work with him to expose Patricia's pattern of behavior. He said he had been collecting information about other people Patricia had hurt over the years but needed more evidence to make a credible case. He thought my situation combined with his might be enough to get people to listen. I was hesitant at first because I didn't know if Robbie was telling the truth. But he showed me detailed records he had kept about his case, including emails from HR and witness statements from coworkers who supported him. Everything looked legitimate. Robbie introduced me to 2 other people who said Patricia had destroyed their careers through false accusations or manipulation. Jennifer, 28F, was a paralegal at Patricia's firm who was fired after Patricia claimed she had been stealing office supplies and billing personal expenses to client accounts. Mark, 35M, was a lawyer at a competing firm who lost a major client after Patricia spread rumors that he was incompetent and unreliable. All 3 of them had kept detailed records of their interactions with Patricia. Jennifer had saved emails and expense reports that disproved Patricia's accusations. Mark had correspondence with the client showing they were satisfied with his work until suddenly cutting ties without explanation. We started meeting weekly to share information and plan our next steps. Robbie suggested we create a comprehensive document outlining Patricia's pattern of behavior and present it to the State Bar Association. Jennifer thought we should contact local legal publications to expose what Patricia was doing. Mark wanted to hire a private investigator to gather more evidence. While we were planning, I got another surprise. Patricia's fiancé Tom, 29M, reached out to me through social media. He asked if we could meet privately to discuss what had happened at the engagement party. He said he had been thinking about my accusations and wanted to hear more details. Tom and I met at a restaurant outside the city where Patricia was less likely to see us. He told me that since the engagement party, Patricia had been acting differently. She was constantly checking her phone, making mysterious calls, and getting angry when he asked about wedding planning. He said Patricia had told him I was mentally unstable and that our family had been dealing with my lies and manipulation for years. But some things about her story didn't add up. He asked me to walk him through exactly what had happened 5 years ago. I showed Tom all my evidence, the bank statements, receipts, text messages, and photos. I explained how I had worked 2 jobs for 8 months to pay off Patricia's debt while she got promoted and bought expensive things. I told him about having to drop out of school and how Patricia had refused to pay me back even after promising she would. Tom looked through everything carefully. He asked detailed questions about dates, amounts, and specific conversations. After about 2 hours, he said he believed me. He said Patricia's reaction at the engagement party and her behavior since then made more sense now. Tom told me something that made my stomach drop. He said Patricia had been pressuring him to sign a prenuptial agreement that would give her complete control over their finances. She said it was standard practice for lawyers and that he should trust her to handle their money since she made more than he did. He also said Patricia had been asking detailed questions about his family's financial situation, including whether his parents had any inheritance or trust funds set up for him. When he asked why she needed to know, she said she was just trying to plan their financial future together. Tom said he was starting to see a pattern in Patricia's behavior that he hadn't noticed before. He asked if I thought she was capable of manipulating their relationship the same way she had manipulated our family situation. I didn't know how to answer that question. I told him about the threats Patricia had made and how she had systematically destroyed my job prospects and housing situation. I showed him screenshots of the messages she had sent and explained how she had used her legal connections against me. Tom looked shaken after hearing everything. He said he needed time to think about what to do next. He asked me not to tell anyone about our meeting while he figured out his next steps. That was a week ago. I haven't heard from Tom since then, but Robbie texted me yesterday saying we should meet again soon. He thinks we have enough evidence now to approach the State Bar Association about Patricia's conduct. Jennifer found 2 more former colleagues who are willing to speak about their experiences with Patricia. I'm still living in the weekly motel and doing odd jobs for cash. The situation is getting expensive and I don't know how much longer I can sustain this. But for the first time in months, I feel like I might have some allies in this fight against Patricia. The question is whether any of this will actually matter in the end. Patricia still has her job, her reputation, and our parents' support. She has money and legal connections. All I have are some screenshots and a few people who claim she wronged them too. Part of me wonders if I'm making everything worse by continuing to fight this. But I keep thinking about what will happen to the next person who trusts Patricia or gets in her way. If I don't speak up now, she'll just keep destroying people whenever it suits her purposes. Update 2: Everything has exploded in ways I never expected. The meeting with the State Bar Association didn't go anywhere. They said the issues Robbie and the others raised were employment matters, not ethical violations they could investigate. But other things started falling into place. Tom broke up with Patricia 3 weeks ago. He came clean to me about what had happened after our meeting. He said he started paying attention to how Patricia talked about people and noticed she always had negative stories about anyone who crossed her path. He also discovered she had been going through his phone and computer when he wasn't home. The final straw was when Tom found out Patricia had called his boss to ask about his salary and bonus structure. She told his boss she was planning their wedding budget and needed exact figures. His boss was confused because Tom had told him they weren't discussing finances until after the wedding. When Tom confronted Patricia about the phone call, she initially denied it, then said she was just being practical about wedding planning. But Tom had already decided he couldn't trust her anymore. He broke up with her the next day and moved out of their apartment. Patricia went completely off the rails after the breakup. She started calling Tom dozens of times per day and showing up at his workplace. She called his parents and told them he was having a mental breakdown and needed intervention. She even contacted his ex-girlfriend from college to try to get information about his past relationships. Tom had to get a restraining order against Patricia, which became public record. That's when everything started unraveling for her at the law firm. Apparently, having a restraining order filed against you raises red flags with legal employers, especially when the details involve harassment and stalking behavior. The firm started looking more closely at Patricia's work and her interactions with colleagues. They discovered she had been billing personal expenses to client accounts, things like expensive lunches, dry cleaning, and even some of those clothes she bought with Dad's credit card years ago. The amounts weren't huge, but the pattern was clear. Jennifer, the paralegal who had worked with us, was contacted by the firm's HR department as part of their investigation. They asked her about her previous allegations against Patricia and why she had been fired. Jennifer showed them the evidence she had kept, including emails that proved she hadn't stolen office supplies or misused client accounts. The firm also reached out to Robbie and Mark as part of their review. Robbie's sexual harassment allegations were looked at again, and this time the firm found inconsistencies in Patricia's story. Several colleagues confirmed that Robbie and Patricia barely interacted, and Patricia couldn't provide any witnesses to the incidents she had described. 2 weeks ago, Patricia was suspended from the law firm pending a full investigation. The State Bar Association, which had initially dismissed our complaints, reopened their inquiry based on the firm's findings about billing irregularities and false accusations against colleagues. Our parents finally reached out to me after the restraining order became public. They asked me to meet them for lunch to discuss what was happening with Patricia. I agreed, thinking they might finally be ready to hear my side of the story. The lunch was a disaster. Our parents didn't want to hear about what Patricia had done to me or to her colleagues. They wanted me to help them figure out how to support Patricia through this difficult time. They said she was being attacked by vindictive former coworkers and that Tom had broken up with her because he couldn't handle being with a successful woman. When I tried to show them the evidence I had about the credit card incident and everything that had happened since, my mother cut me off. She said I was being vindictive and jealous, and that I needed to stop trying to destroy my sister's career. My father said I should be ashamed of myself for not supporting family during a crisis. They asked me to sign a statement saying that I had lied about the credit card incident and that Patricia had never done anything wrong. They said it would help with her legal problems and prove that disgruntled family members were making false accusations. When I refused, they said they were cutting off all contact with me until I came to my senses. That was the last conversation I had with my parents. They blocked my number and told other family members not to talk to me. Our grandmother called me once to say she was disappointed in how I was treating Patricia, then hung up when I tried to explain what had really happened. The isolation from family has been difficult, but other parts of my life have started improving. With Patricia suspended from work and dealing with legal problems, the pressure on my job prospects disappeared. I was able to get steady work again and found a decent apartment. Tom has been surprisingly helpful throughout all of this. He feels guilty about not seeing Patricia's true nature sooner and has been sharing information about her behavior during their relationship. He told me Patricia had kept detailed files on all of his friends and family members, including financial information, personal problems, and anything she could potentially use against them later. Robbie's case was officially reopened by his former employer after Patricia's credibility came into question. He might be able to get his reputation cleared and potentially pursue legal action against Patricia for defamation. Jennifer was offered her job back with back pay and a formal apology. But Patricia isn't going down without a fight. Even while suspended, she's been trying to rebuild her reputation and shift blame to everyone else. She hired an expensive defense attorney and has been giving interviews to legal publications about how female lawyers are unfairly targeted by false accusations. She's also been reaching out to former colleagues and acquaintances, trying to get them to provide character references. Most people have been avoiding her, but a few have publicly defended her on social media. The whole situation has become very messy and public. Last week, I received a certified letter from Patricia's attorney demanding that I cease making defamatory statements about her character and professional conduct. The letter threatened legal action if I continued to share evidence or speak with journalists about the case. I showed the letter to Robbie, who consulted with his own attorney. They said Patricia was likely trying to intimidate me into silence, but that I had a right to share my own experiences and evidence as long as I stuck to facts and didn't embellish anything. The attorney advised me to document everything carefully and avoid making emotional statements about Patricia's character or motivations. Focus on specific actions, dates, and evidence rather than conclusions about her intentions or personality. I'm trying to follow that advice, but it's hard to stay objective when I think about how Patricia systematically destroyed my life over something she had done wrong in the first place. The credit card incident was 5 years ago, but the consequences are still playing out today. Patricia's investigation at the law firm is expected to conclude within the next month. If they find evidence of billing fraud or other misconduct, she could face criminal charges in addition to losing her job and law license. The State Bar Association review could take longer, but the outcome could permanently end her legal career. I don't know what Patricia will do if she loses everything she's worked for. Part of me worries she'll try to take revenge on everyone who contributed to her downfall. But another part of me thinks this might be the only way she'll finally face real consequences for her actions. The whole situation has been exhausting and expensive. I'm still paying legal fees and trying to rebuild my career and relationships. But I'm glad I didn't give in to Patricia's demands 3 months ago. Standing up to her was the right choice, even though it's made everything much more complicated. Final update: Patricia was fired from the law firm and lost her license to practice law. The investigation found evidence of billing fraud, false accusations against multiple colleagues, and violation of client confidentiality rules. She also faces criminal charges for the billing issues, though her attorney is trying to negotiate a plea deal. The State Bar Association concluded that Patricia had engaged in conduct that violated professional standards and posed a risk to clients and colleagues. Even if the criminal charges are resolved, she won't be able to practice law in this state for at least 5 years, and potentially never again. Tom's restraining order was made permanent after Patricia violated it several times by showing up at his workplace and following him home. She's required to stay at least 500 feet away from him and has no contact with him or his family. Robbie was officially cleared of all harassment charges and received a settlement from his former law firm for wrongful termination. He's decided to move back to the city and restart his legal career. Jennifer got her job back and has been promoted to a senior paralegal position. Mark's situation was more complicated because his issues with Patricia weren't as clear-cut, but he was able to reconnect with the client who had dropped him and rebuild that relationship. He's considering a defamation lawsuit against Patricia, but his attorney thinks it might not be worth the time and expense. Our parents still haven't contacted me. I heard through Clark and Sarah that they're helping Patricia pay for her legal defense and trying to find her a job outside the legal field. They still believe she's being unfairly targeted and that I'm partly responsible for destroying her career. Patricia moved back in with our parents after losing her apartment. She's been working retail jobs to pay her legal fees and living expenses. Tom told me she tried to contact him through mutual friends, but he's maintained no contact and moved to a different part of the city. I kept waiting for Patricia to try some kind of final revenge against me, but it never came. I think she's been too focused on trying to avoid prison time and figure out what to do with her life. Her attorney probably advised her to avoid any contact with people involved in the case. The criminal case is still pending. Patricia's attorney is pushing for community service and probation instead of jail time, arguing that she's already lost her career and professional reputation. The prosecutor seems willing to consider it since the amounts involved weren't massive and she doesn't have prior convictions. My life has stabilized significantly. I found steady work with a small marketing company that needed someone with graphic design skills. The pay isn't great, but it's regular income and the company doesn't seem concerned about my employment gap or the drama from earlier this year. I moved into a decent 1-bedroom apartment and have been slowly rebuilding my savings account. I even started taking evening classes at the community college again, using financial aid to cover most of the costs. I should be able to complete my degree within the next 2 years. The relationship with my parents is permanently damaged. Clark and Sarah tried to mediate a conversation between us, but our parents insisted I needed to apologize to Patricia before they would consider talking to me. I'm not willing to do that, so we're at an impasse. It hurts to lose my family over this, but I've accepted that they were never really on my side anyway. They chose Patricia over me long before the credit card incident, and they would have continued choosing her regardless of what I did. I don't have contact with any of Patricia's former colleagues anymore. Robbie moved to a different city for his new job. Jennifer and I exchanged contact information but haven't stayed in touch. Mark and I never had much of a relationship beyond our shared experience with Patricia. Tom and I grab coffee occasionally, but we don't talk much about Patricia anymore. He's dating someone new and seems to have moved on from the whole situation. He thanked me for helping him see Patricia's true nature before he married her, but I think he's ready to put this chapter of his life behind him. The hardest part has been accepting that there won't be any real closure or resolution. Patricia never apologized for what she did to me or acknowledged that she was wrong. Our parents never recognized how they failed me or took responsibility for enabling Patricia's behavior. I'm not waiting for those apologies anymore. Patricia lost her career and reputation, which is more consequence than she faced for anything else she did over the years. The people she hurt have been able to move forward with their lives. That has to be enough. Sometimes people ask me if I regret speaking up at the engagement party or if I wish I had handled things differently. I usually say no, because keeping Patricia's secret for 5 years only made things worse. She never would have stopped manipulating and hurting people until someone finally held her accountable. But I do wonder sometimes what would have happened if I had just apologized and lied for her again when she demanded it. Would I be in a better place now if I had chosen the easier path? Would our family still be intact even if it was built on lies and manipulation? I'll never know the answer to those questions. What I do know is that Patricia spent years systematically destroying people who got in her way, and she only stopped when she finally faced real consequences. Maybe that makes all the chaos and pain worth it, or maybe it just means we all got caught up in her destructive pattern until it finally collapsed. Either way, it's over now. Patricia has to figure out how to rebuild her life just like everyone else she hurt had to do. The difference is that this time, she's facing the consequences of her own actions instead of deflecting them onto someone else. I'm not sure what happens next, but at least I know I won't be carrying her secrets anymore.